Welcome back. We are moving up our list to the Cleveland Guardians. A lot has happened. There's been trades, there has been winter meetings, there has been all kinds of stuff. Players moving from here, players moving from there. And we are going to go ahead and take a look because some of those players are affected by people on this list. And we are going to take a look and see if any of these trades or moves or free agent signings have affected any of these top 10 prospect lists. And we're going to start right here with the Cleveland Guardians. There are a lot of middle infield and tremendous amount of solid pitchers that could have easily made this list. Cleveland has some of the best young arms in the minors, but I had to take it down to 10. So not everyone was going to make it on this list. The middle infielders just so happen to be stuck between Rosario and Jimenez for a bit, so maybe next season some of those will pop up onto here. And there are really only 2 starting pitcher spots available for the Guardians right now. I was fighting between 18 guys, so cut me a little bit of slack. So, first player we had to leave off this list was Xavier Curry. Curry's fastball and his arm slot have made him a coveted talent for Cleveland. His numbers in college were not hugely impressive, but he was pitching better in 2019 before shoulder inflammation shut down his season. My concerns with him are his declining numbers each time he's climbed up through the ranks. He had a 1.07 ERA in single A, a 2.66 in high A, a 3.65 in double A, 4.58 ERA in AAA, and a 5.74 ERA in limited action in the majors. Plus his lack of a secondary pitch, mainly relying on his low to mid 90s fastball. The Guardians have been using him as a starter, but he heavily relies on that fastball and would be an easy read second or third time through the lineup. If he were to struggle at the major league level, he may be asked to go to the bullpen and lose a lot of the promise that the Guardians have seen in him. And the other one I had to leave off that list is one of those players that just came over in a trade to the Guardians, and that's Juan Brito. You may be saying to yourself, but they just gave up so much to get him. And I agree, but I still had to leave him off this list. Brito came over in the Nolan Jones deal. Jones was once regarded as the #1 prospect in the Guardians system, but never panned out. Just to show you, you never know with prospecting. Brito has a plus glove up the middle and solid speed. Generally just what the Guardians are looking for talent-wise. So why is he not on this list, you might ask, especially considering what the Guardians gave up to get him. Unfortunately, it's the talent ahead of him and the rumors around him. Yes, he is on the 40-man roster, but that is just solely to keep him out of the Rule 5 draft. So I wouldn't look for him to break camp with the big boys. He is rumored to just have been acquired to be used as a trade piece in a bigger deal, and the Guardians may not have a plan for him in their future. If he does somehow stick with the Guardians, he may find a solid opportunity and may surprise. But most signs are pointing to him moving again this season, or so say flies on the wall. All right, we'll go ahead and kick the list off then, since those 2 guys didn't make it. We're going to start off with number 10, and that is Jack LEFTWICH. He's a pitcher. He's in high A. He's 6'4", 220 pounds, and he's 24 years old. His 2022 stats, he was 8-2 with a 2.72 ERA, a .91 whip, 140 strikeouts, and 109 1/3 innings pitched. Okay, I may be a little biased. Go Gators. But LEFTWICH finally started displaying the potential that Kevin O'Sullivan had been waiting for. UF had witnessed his highs and his lows and had transitioned him from a weekend starter to a solid closer, when the downs were by far outweighing the ups. His second junior season, he went 7-4 with a 3.36 ERA and 5 saves. So after being drafted by the Guardians, they continue the trend of him coming out of the bullpen, although they used him more as a long reliever instead of a closer. LEFTWICH was solid and pitched his way back into a starting pitching spot. He never looked back, starting his last 15 games and posting a formidable 2.72 ERA while striking out, like I said, 140 in those 109 1/3 innings. LEFTWICH can top the radar gun at 97, but he prefers to stay in the 95-mile-an-hour range, with a little bit of sink to the pitch. He also features a complementary changeup and a breaking ball that's kind of somewhere between a slider and a curve. I wouldn't really call it either of them. If he can find the magic that the Gators had hoped for out of him and can continue on that starting bump, look for him to be a solid number 2 or number 3 starter for the Guardians someday. Number 9 is Will Benson. He's an outfielder. He's at the MLB level. If the players are at the MLB level and they played a few games, I'm going to say they're MLB level. If they're just on the 40-man and they're not assigned a spot right now, like they could be in the minors or they could be in the majors, I'm just going to say they're on the 40-man, just to be clear for everybody. But Benson is at the MLB level. He is 6'5", he's 230 pounds, and he's 24 years old. His 2022 stats were hitting .278 with 17 home runs, 45 RBIs, 16 stolen bases, and a .948 OPS, all in 316 at-bats. Benson got the September call-up for the Guardians, but struggled in his 55 at-bats in the bigs. He is a solid, well-rounded player, hitting .278, like I said, with 17 home runs and 16 stolen bases and only 316 minor league at-bats. Benson busted out on the scene in the USA Baseball Tournament of Stars and immediately began drawing comparisons to Jason Hayward. His swing, his size, his power, and lefty uppercut, how could he not? Benson shares some of the same issues that Hayward had faced throughout his career. He loves to pull the ball too much at times and needs to work on hitting to all fields. He makes great contact, but is more inclined to roll over a grounder instead of slapping it down the third baseline. With the shift being banned, this might not be as big of a concern moving forward as in years past, but a well-rounded swing can only lead to more positive at-bats. Benson did struggle in his call-up, like I said, but we can probably attribute that to nerves, hopefully. Looking for him to be at best, utility outfielder for a season or two, as Quan and Straw will get every shot in left field and center field to build on their 2022 season numbers. And a prospect higher on this list has the ability to play all three outfield spots and projects to be on the field above Benson this year. Number 8 on this list is actually one that I would like to see myself because I think it would be an entertaining player to watch. But that is Gavin Williams. He is a starting pitcher. He's in Double-A. He is 6'6", 255 pounds, and he is 23 years old. His 2022 stats are he was 5-4 with a 1.96 ERA, a .95 WHIP, and 149 strikeouts in 115 innings. Williams is tall, standing 6'6" and big, weighing 255 pounds. He seemed destined to live life as a closer of the future. But Williams bulked up to a solid 240 pounds in his senior year and was given an opportunity to start for ECU. He did not disappoint, becoming a semifinalist for the Dick Hauser and Golden Spikes Award with an impressive 10-1 record, a 1.88 ERA, and striking out 130 batters in 81 1/3 innings. He has a power arm and a long release point. At times, he touches the radar gun at 100 miles per hour and features 2 big breaking balls, a curve, and a slider. He also kind of throws a changeup, but it's the least used of his 4 pitches. He has a smooth, consistent release and gets many swing and misses. His ability should have him higher on this list, but I think he needs another year as a starter before taking the leap into the majors. If he can show that swing and miss stuff at AAA, it won't be long before he's battling for a number 1 or number 2 spot. And number 7, we are just going to go for it. Jhonkensy Noel. I hope I nailed that. Don't know. He is a third baseman. He is on the 40-man roster. He is 6'3", 250 pounds, and he's 21 years old. His 2022 stats are hitting .229 with 32 home runs, 84 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, a .799 OPS, and 485 at-bats. I get it. With his power, he should be so much higher on this list. And if it weren't for the fact that he mostly has been playing third base his entire career, he absolutely would. But can you imagine hitting 32 home runs the same season your team signs Jose Ramirez for another 7 years? It's brutal. But Noel has been picking up games at first base and left field to make it an easier path getting into the majors. With the Guardians picking up Josh Bell and still carrying Josh Naylor, that may shore up first base and DH for the season, leaving Noel with a utility role at best or a very slim shot at left field if Quan or the other backup outfielder was a seriously struggle. I expect Noel to get a better opportunity in the 2024 season, but may end up being a big trade piece come July. Either way, the power is there. He just needs to cut back on those 150 strikeouts that surprisingly appeared last season, helping drop his batting average from .340 in 2021 to just .229 in 2022. And he needs to pick up the walks before he turns into a homer or nothing style hitter like a Joey Gallo or a Pedro Serrano. Number 6 is Cody Morris. He's a pitcher. He's at the MLB level. He's 6'4", 205 pounds, and he's 26 years old. His 2022 stats were going 0 for 0 with a 1.69 ERA, a .7 WHIP. He had 1 save, 1 hold, and 39 strikeouts and 21 1/3 innings pitched. Cody Morris was a true gem for the Guardians minor league system, holding down a 1.62 ERA in 2021 and an equally impressive 1.69 ERA in 2022. Moore's continued his success in a late season call-up, going 1-2 with a 2.28 ERA and 23 1/3 innings. He did hit a little bit of a speed bump with the call-up effectively doubling his whip from .70 in the minors to a brisky, I don't know, is brisky a word? We'll go with it. Brisky 1.39 whip in the majors. Walking 12 didn't really help. He did have Tommy John surgery in 2015 and spent time in 2022 on the 60-day IL with a right shoulder strain. The Tommy John's is not really a concern at this point, but the fact that he has trouble at times with a consistent delivery could allow for more injuries in the future. He features 3 above average pitches, a fastball that is most effective around 93-95, but it can touch 97 miles an hour. He has a power curve and a changeup. Having those 3 pitches allows him to go deeper in ball games and can keep, hitters guessing that second time or even maybe that third time through the lineup. He just needs to work on a consistent delivery if he hopes to stay as a starter. But he has been solid in the pen when needed. Cleveland would be fine either way and is always searching for middle relief, kind of setup arms, a little bit by default. Number 5 is Bo, not his brother Josh, Naylor. He is a catcher. He is on the 40-man roster. He is 6 foot tall. That's about how tall I am. 205 pounds. I am definitely not that skinny. And he is 22 years old. His 2022 stats were hitting .263 with 21 home runs, 68 RBIs, 20 stolen bases, an .888 OPS, and 415 at-bats. Bo Naylor is hoping to join his brother this year on the Guardians opening day roster. I would have thought it a certainty with the great season he put up in 2022, but then the Guardians went out and signed Mike Zunino. I know, stop talking about the Gators. I still think Bo Naylor has a shot at making the opening day roster, but as a backup. But he'll have to fight the power-hitting Zunino for everyday at-bats. Naylor still leaves a lot to be desired behind the plate as well, although he has a quick pop-up time. Accuracy be damned. That may be the deciding factor this season. There is no doubt that the Guardians would love Naylor and his 2020 capabilities, as he did in 2022, to be the catcher of the future. But I think they will need to give him another year to develop the defense to take that mantle. If they hadn't assigned Zunino this year, Naylor would have been a bit higher on this list, but Zunino's deal was only for 1 year and it has no options. So I think the Guardians kind of know that they needed that gap filler for 2023 at catcher to give Naylor one more season to develop. Number 4, we're going to go for it again, is going to be Daniel Espino. He is a starting pitcher. He's in Double-A. He is 6'2", 225 pounds, and he's 21 years old. His 2022 stats are 1-0 with a 2.45 ERA, a .71 whip, 35 strikeouts, and 18 1/3 innings. Talent-wise, Espino would deserve to top this list. There is no question he has great stuff, featuring 4 pitches, mainly 3 though, with a fastball topping out at 99 miles an hour, a vicious slider, a curveball with a nice 11-5 break coming out of his 3/4 delivery style. He gets a lot of swing and misses, especially in the upper zone with that fastball and diving away with that slider. Health and lack of development time is the concern with him. He originally went to the IL in 2022 with a knee injury, followed by a shoulder injury that shut down his 2022 season, only allowing him to pitch in 4 games that year. He will need a season or 2 to get that arm conditioning back up and needs to find a way to stay on the field in 2023. If he can do that and can continue to develop, 2024 will be his oyster. Even with all the talented pitchers in the Guardians organization, Espino has the greatest potential and upside. Number 3, and it may be a shocker, some people might have him at 2 or 1, but number 3 is George Valera. He is a right fielder. He is on the 40-man roster. He is 6 foot tall, 195 pounds, and he's 22 years old. His 2022 stats were hitting .250 with 24 home runs, 82 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, and an .816 OPS and 484 at-bats. After all the hype, how could you not have this kid number 1? Well, it is definitely not that I don't think he has the talent to top this list. It is just he has a more difficult path, in my opinion, as he is mostly a right fielder. Oscar Gonzalez did about as good as could be expected to lock up that right field position for the Guardians. That left Valero having to make some adjustments and play a little left field and a little center field, hoping to clear a path. As I previously said, the Guardians outfield will be given every shot to play to the expectations, and the three main guys behind them fighting for a roster spot and playing time are equally up for that challenge. I love Valera's power, hitting 24 home runs and his ability to drive in runs when it counts. I definitely think Cleveland is short on power again this year, but they seem to be quite content with hitters that get on base, get over, and then let Ramirez and now Josh Bell drive them in. Valera should break camp, but he will need to show off that power to climb his way up into a starting lineup or outplay the others for extra utility at bats. Number 2, and it's like I'm doing it to myself here. I don't know why I do this. I believe it is Johnathan Rodriguez. He is an outfielder. He is in Double-A. He is 6'3", he's 180 pounds, and he's 23 years old. You guys know I'm terrible with the names. His 2022 stats were hitting .269 with 26 home runs, 74 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, an .858 OPS, and 402 at-bats. So hear me out. I know I said how difficult it would be for Valera and the younger outfield to make the opening day roster. And I genuinely don't think that Rodriguez will make that roster. But if Cleveland ever decides to change their approach and start loading up with the power like in the John Hart days, this will be your guy. He is 6'3" and may be able to pack on a little bit more pounds, although he is 23 years old, so not too much more room for substantial growth. The power finally came along in 2022 with a few minor changes. He was able to get the life on the ball needed to get the ball out of the ballpark. He has a plus arm and right and carries a little more weight than listed, in a good way. His concerns are his increase in strikeouts that came along with that extra power and that big swing. And the fact that the Guardians have such depth in their outfield talent, you're in a situation that you will have at least 8 guys realistically fighting over the 3 starter spots, with Straw, Kwan, and Gonzalez in the driver's seat. This is the one that I would most like to keep an eye on as far as cards go, with that swing and that power. And that brings us to the top of the list, and that is Will Brennan. He is a center fielder. He is at the major league level. He's 6 foot tall, 200 pounds, and he's 24 years old. His 2022 stats were hitting .314 with 13 home runs, 107 RBIs, 20 stolen bases, and an .850 OPS and 528 at-bats. Having Will Brennan may be shocking to some. I know when I started this list, I swore Valera or Noel would be holding this spot. But I actually like what Brennan has to offer the Guardians, especially considering his style of play is right up their alley. He gets on base, he moves himself up, and he can drive in runs if needed to. Is he going to hit 40 home runs? Not a chance. But the Guardians don't want him to. He plays all 3 outfield positions and right now projects as a backup at all 3 of those positions, meaning he could find himself starting almost every day and giving the 3 other outfielders a day off routinely. He is one of the reasons I tampered my expectations with the rest of the Guardians' young outfield prospects. Brennan should get first shot if someone stumbles and should be on the field backing up those other 3 outfielders. He was one of the few players whose numbers actually improved after his September call-up, hitting .357 with a .900 OPS and 42 at-bats. That gave the Guardians a glimpse of what Brennan can do, and they are hoping he can expand on that this year. Brennan also has that Craig Biggio skill of not being afraid to step into a pitch, or 2, which helps with what the Guardians desire for getting him on base. Add that to his low strikeout to walk ratio, walking 50 times and only striking out 69 in the minors. The Guardians could easily have another Steven Kwan on their hands. At least they hope they do. Being on this team puts Brennan atop this list, as he is the most ideal player and ideal fit for this organization. So that wraps up the Guardians. We are going to be moving on to our next team, which I don't know who that is. Let me go look it up. Ah, yes. It is going to be the Colorado Rockies. Zach Veen, number 1. I don't know. I'm hoping, because I am loaded on the Zach Veen. We will see how it all shakes out. Like I said, I thought Valera was going to be number 1 on this list, and then nope. So I appreciate all the interaction and all the watching of my videos, the likes, the shares, the subscribes. Appreciate all that. We are getting close to 200 subscribers, so our next video, we're going to set up for a 200 subscriber list. If you won stuff on my 100 subscriber video, go back and watch it. If you were one of our winners, please contact me and let me know. I've been trying to get in touch with people. I've only gotten in contact with one person out of the 10 people that won. So if you are one of those winners, go back and watch that 100 subscriber giveaway video and let me know and get in touch with me, and I will get you your prize out, because I want to get these prize. They're just sitting over here. I would like to get them out to you guys. So reach out to me on that. If you want, you can go ahead and subscribe over here, and you can watch my next video over here. That wasn't supposed to happen. Unique New York. Unique New York. The arsonist has oddly shaped feet.